oh, I'm gonna fast. Yeah, I'm gonna fast now. Today I'm feeling the hunger, but I'm not gonna eat. I'm not gonna eat until 4 o'clock. Just one meal today. So let's talk a little bit about intermittent fasting. It seems to be a popular subject these days on YouTube and in the world in general. Intermittent fasting, it's so amazing, and well, you should do it, and it's good for your health and all that. So first of all, let's define what is intermittent fasting. Well, what it means is, the word intermittent means that you do something and then you do something else and then you do something else, and you go back and forth between doing two things. Like, for example, interval training, which is something everyone knows. You work hard for a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then you take 3 or 4 minutes to recover, and then you work hard again. That's like intermittent training, you could say. Intermittent fasting means basically you eat for a certain period, and then you have a period of fasting, followed again by a period of eating, followed again by a period of fasting. That's what intermittent fasting means. Now, the scale varies. So there's, you could look at it as there's intermittent fasting. Some people talk about intermittent fasting, and what they mean is once a week you do a fast, or every other day you do a fast, or something like that. That's one way of looking at intermittent fasting. The other way of looking at it, which is probably more common, especially these days, is on a 24-hour basis, and then within those 24 hours you have a long period of fasting. So maybe you'll just eat one meal a day, which some people do. They eat one meal and then they fast for 23 hours, something like that. That would also be intermittent fasting. Now I'll comment on both of them quickly. The once a week type of fast, I definitely do not recommend doing that. If you fast for 1 day a week, then you will have a caloric deficit of about 2,000-3,000 calories, depending on how much you exercise and move around. Let's say a couple of thousand, because you're probably resting on the fasting day. Well, you'll have to make up for that on the other days by overeating. Unless you want to lose weight, of course, which again, I guess that is a way to do it, but I wouldn't recommend actually doing that. I'd rather see you do a caloric deficit, small caloric deficits each day of the year, rather than 1 day a week having a large deficit. It sort of throws the body out of balance a little bit. We're adapted to eating. We should be eating. That's what we just like breathing and sleeping, and these are just normal rhythms. And all animals, they eat every day unless they're sick or can't find food, in other words, starving. So there's no really natural reason for why you should not eat once a week. So I don't recommend doing that, and it just creates this sort of hiccup in the flow of things. So once a week fasting, no, I wouldn't recommend it. If you want to do it once a year, maybe. But talking about fasting in general, water fasting, that's another subject for another video, I think. So I'm not going to go into that now. But once a week, definitely not. Every other day, most certainly not. That would just make every other day a huge challenge to get enough calories for 2 days in 1 day. It's unnecessary. You could divide the calories on 2 days rather than trying to fast on 1 day. There's no benefit in that, really. Now, when we're talking about the actual 24-hour scenario, well, this is, if you think about it, a completely natural thing. All animals go to sleep. Well, animals sleep at different lengths, but let's say us humans, we're a tropical animal. We're naturally adapted to going to bed when the sun goes down. We don't have night vision or anything like that. And the night is about 12 hours in the tropics. So for 12 hours of the day, we would not be out foraging. That's for sure. We are adapted to sleeping for 9 to 10 hours a night maybe, and being pretty much chilled out for like 12 hours in the night. Then we have 12 hours of daytime when we will eat, but naturally we would spend a little bit of time at the beginning of the day getting up and finding the food, unless we were camping under a tree. And at the last part of the day, we'd probably spend our energy, like if we're looking at it in a wild setting, in way back to our ancestors and also our common cousins, the bonobo and the chimpanzee and stuff. You spend those last few hours of the day socializing, but also building a nest or finding a place to sleep. So, and if you think about it just in a modern context, I don't feel like eating immediately upon waking. I wake up, I don't feel like eating immediately. it takes about an hour usually before I start feeling hungry. Then I have my breakfast, I go about my day, I have my lunch, I go about my day, I have my dinner, and usually I like to have dinner about 2-3 hours before I go to bed. So there's a gap there as well. So that, and then I sleep for 10 hours or something. So that leaves me with essentially a 16-hour period where I'm not eating, basically. So for me, I'm fasting for 16 hours every 24 hours. So you could say that's intermittent fasting, just naturally, just like it's no effort involved. And that's my point, I think. Yes, it's good to wake up in the morning and not stuff food down, immediately. If you're super hungry upon waking, you probably didn't eat enough the day before. But it has to do with hormones too, so it's more complex than that. But basically, wake up in the morning, eat when you're hungry, and it usually takes a little bit of time, like half an hour, maybe even 2 hours, depending on your activity level and that sort of thing. Dinner, get it in a few hours before you go to bed, and then sleep for as long as you need. Go to bed early, read a little bit if you want in bed, fall asleep, sleep as long as you want, wake up without an alarm clock, and slowly get up and start your day. So you can see how intermittent fasting in that sense is just a natural thing. It just happens naturally. You don't have to do anything. But then of course there are other people that say, I'll just eat one meal a day and I fast for 23 hours. And that's okay, I guess you could do that if you want. If you want to put that amount of pressure on that one meal a day, caloric pressure I mean, because if you're active and you're using 2,500, 3,000 calories a day, you got to get in those calories. And if you have to do that in one meal, well, then you have to eat a lot in that one meal. You have to have an extreme stomach capacity, and you have to focus very much on the calorie dense foods and that sort of thing. I think it's unnecessary to create that much pressure on your digestive system all at once, or on your schedule in general. I personally prefer having 3 meals. It sort of breaks up the day a little bit. So if you want to have one meal a day and do it like that, you can, as long as you get in enough calories in that one meal. But if you don't, and I don't recommend it, I would rather see you eat 2 meals a day, or 3 or even 4 meals a day. More than 4 meals though, you start getting to grazing, which I don't really recommend. I have a video about that you can check out, meals versus grazing. So intermittent fasting, trying to enforce a schedule in terms of how you eat, not something I recommend really. I recommend just eating when hungry until satisfied. Eating when hungry until full. It's the natural way of things. No animal goes around thinking, oh, I'm gonna fast. Yeah, I'm gonna fast now. Today I'm feeling the hunger, but I'm not gonna eat. I'm not gonna eat until 4 o'clock. Just one meal today. This just doesn't make sense. You're hungry, you find food, you eat as much as you feel like, you're satisfied, you stop eating, you go about your day, and then you get hungry again, you eat. And that typically, unless you eat extremely small meals, that typically works out to be like 3 or 4 meals a day. In my experience, some people end up eating 2 meals a day. And of course, going for 16 hours without eating is healthy, I do think, because it's naturally occurring. That's just how it is. And it gives your digestive system that rest that it needs, that recovery from digesting food all the time. So I do think in that sense, some of the benefits you may hear about intermittent fasting are indeed true, because they relate specifically to this idea of resting your digestive system and giving a break from eating. Weight loss, on the other hand, should not really be a symptom of this. If weight loss is a symptom of intermittent fasting, then it's just because you are going hungry for a long time, burning fat, and then you have a meal which is not sufficient to meet your daily caloric need, and then you end up losing weight, which is not a sustainable way to do it. As I've said, I recommend, if you want to lose weight, you have a small caloric deficit of maybe 200-300 calories a day, and you just maintain that for like weeks and months on end, and you will steadily lose weight. Nothing extreme. Intermittent fasting, in order to lose weight, tends to be on the extreme side, causing your body unnecessary stress in order to meet your caloric demand at any given time, and being hungry without getting the food it needs at the right time. And it's just unpractical, and I would say borderline unhealthy to sort of force the body to fast when it doesn't want to. I hope that makes sense to you. Leave a comment down below if you haven't any thoughts on the subject. If you like this video, share it with a friend maybe. Maybe you know someone who can benefit from this information. You can send them the link. share on Facebook, something like that, spread the word. Of course, if you're interested in getting some personalized assistance in losing weight, or maybe just optimizing your daily routine in terms of meals and how much to eat and when to eat and that sort of thing, you could always contact me, and I offer health coaching via Skype. Thanks for watching, have an awesome day, and I will see you soon.